Dice mama. Mama.
So this woman poured Coca-Cola into a baby bottle and called it breakfast. Down in the Delta is a masterclass in generational mess, addiction, and one family's final shot at survival. So let's get into it. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The movie kicks off with a man sending a letter to Rosa. Then we hit the big city, Chicago. Loud, busy, and the mess. Meet the lineup. Rosa, the only adult in the room. Thomas, the grandson with sense. Tracy, the daughter with some challenges, and Loretta, played by Alfre Woodard, and she's a full-time disaster. One morning, Loretta stumbles home after partying all night. Rose is taking Thomas to school, working a soup kitchen, keeping this sinking ship barely afloat. Later that day, Thomas is out here hustling $5 Polaroids. Meanwhile, Loretta feeds her daughter milk and Coca-Cola, pure generational curses in a cup. The next day, Rosa gets a letter from her brother-in-law, Earl, and she knows it ain't good. She asks Loretta where she sees herself in 5 years. Loretta doesn't know, so Rosa tells her. Rosa says she's gonna be dead from old age, Loretta's gonna be dead from drinking, Thomas is gonna be dead from gun violence, and honestly, she wasn't wrong. Later, Thomas drags Loretta to the store, gets her a job application, and fills it out for her. Next day, Loretta shows up to the interview, dressed for a night out, fails a basic math test.
What is $5 minus $3.87?
Then ends up drunk at a playground. Real role model behavior. Later that night, Rosa finds Loretta sitting up in a crack house, refusing to use but still chilling there like it's normal. Also, she sold Thomas's Walkman. At this point, Thomas is over it, and Rosa is too. The next morning, Rosa calls Earl, begging him to take Loretta and the kids down south. After she threatens to pawn Nathan, the family's silver candelabra, he folds. Later that week, they pawn Nathan for bus tickets. Tracy screams the whole damn bus ride. Welcome to rock bottom. They finally arrive in Mississippi. Earl instantly looks like he regrets answering the phone. He shows them his restaurant, the chicken plant, and his big house. Thomas is excited. Loretta's looking for beer. That evening they meet Annie, Earl's wife, who has Alzheimer's dementia. Loretta acts childish immediately, and she calls Rosa, complaining that the man is crazy for locking all the doors. Later, Earl explains Nathan's history, a family heirloom tied to slavery days, but Loretta's too dense to care. Over the next few days, Thomas falls in love with country life. Loretta starts at the restaurant, but struggles to capture basic skills. Annie and Tracy tear up Xenia, the hired help's nerves. At some point, Loretta, who can't even count change, suggests Earl shut down his restaurant and open a Popeyes. Girl, shut up. Sunday comes, and they all go to church. Loretta acts childish there too. Nothing new. After a few weeks, Thomas teaches Loretta how to count money. Loretta finally gets her first paycheck and starts dreaming bigger and suggests that she work as a waitress. Later at Xenia's house, Loretta confirms Tracy's autistic, not a crack baby like everybody assumed. 1 point for her, finally. The next day, Earl teaches the kids about gun safety. They set up a stuffed tiger for target practice. Thomas shoots it, and hidden money spills out. Turns out he's been stashing his hustle cash in the tiger because he knew it was the one thing Loretta wouldn't sell for drugs or liquor. Damn, kids know everything. Loretta promises to open him a savings account. Thomas says he doesn't want to go back to Chicago, and who would blame him? A few days later, Earl's bitter-ass son Will and his stuck-up wife Monica show up with their 2 kids. Annie doesn't recognize them. Monica throws a tantrum, and Will stays bitter that Earl is treating Thomas better than he ever treated him. The next day, Thomas leaves the door open. Annie and Tracy get out. Annie falls, breaks her hip, ends up in a hospital because chaos never takes a day off with this family. After Annie's surgery, Will and Loretta talk back at the house. That's when Will pitches the idea of turning the chicken plant, which is closing, into a distribution center for Earl's restaurant. Finally doing something useful instead of complaining. The next morning, they pitch the idea to the town, and Earl offers Loretta the restaurant to run full time. Loretta decides to go back to Chicago alone to save Nathan. Back in Chicago, Loretta gets Nathan back from the pawn shop. Later, she and Rosa sit down and spill the real family trauma. Jesse's father was sold off to buy that damn candelabra. Jesse stole Nathan later out of survival and spite. Nathan isn't just silver, it's blood, grief, and stolen freedom. Sometime later, Loretta and Rosa return to Mississippi. Thomas is thriving. Tracy is thriving. Everybody is breathing easier. Loretta brings Nathan back to Earl, but Earl tells her it belongs to her now. She sits it on the fireplace mantle where it belonged the whole time. Flashback, And it shows Jesse stealing Nathan and a family trying to hold on to whatever pieces they could. And that ends the movie. So I would say Down in the Delta is more one of those slow burn type movies. I am convinced that it is the precursor for Holiday Heart, how Wanda got on drugs in the first place. Even though in this movie, Alfred Woodard played Loretta, and she wasn't addicted to drugs, she was addicted to alcohol. But it kind of is like, you know, if this was Wanda's origin story or something like that, because Alfred played similar characters in both movies. I will say this family had a lot of issues, and they were trying to solve it by way of this Candelabra or Nathan. And I thought that was just wild to me. Like, I understood the backstory and how it was kept in the family because his daddy was sold off into another plantation for Nathan or the Candelabra. But the fact that they spoke to it like the spirit of the father was in that Candelabra and they kept it in the family, and there was just so much emphasis placed on this family heirloom that was stolen in the first place, was kind of wild to me. But it just truly shows that generational trauma needs to be taken care of by way of therapy, or at least talking about it, because a lot of the story wasn't even told to the younger generations. All they knew was Nathan or the Candelabra was in the family for a long time, but no one really knew the backstory. And I also have questions about how the hell did Alfred Woodard's character Loretta end up being as down bad as she was? Yes, she was young, I'm guessing, but the fact that she didn't even know how to do simple math is kind of wild to me. I'm confused on how she got that down bad, even though I'm like, okay, they're in Chicago, and I guess in that time frame the inner school system wasn't that good, but like the fact that you don't know basic math is very concerning, because they painted Rosa, her mother, out to be like this great black woman who's in the church, but her daughter didn't know basic math and went down such a horrible path. So I don't know when her father passed away, or, you know, Rosa's husband passed away, and if that significantly influenced where Loretta ended up being addicted to alcohol and doing a little something strange for some change. But it was just kind of strange how she ended up there. But I think they did the right thing by moving down south, because that little boy was going to end up shot in the street or in jail or something like that based on his environment. Like, he seemed like he had so much more inside of him, and all he needed was the right environment and a little bit of motivation and seeing what's possible outside of being in the hood or being in a poverty situation. I think he had his grandmother who was a positive role model, but in general, it didn't seem like he had much positivity coming his way as far as males were concerned. So it was really good to see his great uncle stepping in as that male role model that he needed. And for Tracy, the little girl who had autism, I think her being in a more structured environment and having her mother present and not constantly drunk or out partying probably helped her a lot, especially with her development, as you see that she went from nonverbal to at least being able to say bye-bye by the end of the movie. In general, I will say I did enjoy the movie. It did take a while to get into it, for it to get to the nitty-gritty of everything, but by the end of the movie, I was having some tears come down my eyes. And I do recommend this movie as a precursor to Holiday Heart, because this is how Wanda ended up hooked on drugs, but instead of going down south, she stayed where she was. So thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.